Coming to you live from Ramsey Studios in Nashville. You're joining a conversation about who you are, what you were created to do, where you want to do that, and then how do you get there? It's all about you because you were created to fill a unique role. That means you are needed, but it also means you've got to do it. It's nice to feel needed, isn't it? We all want to know that we matter, and that's what we're talking about here. Work that matters. It's a big part of your life. It's not the only part of your life, but it's a big part of your life. But this idea of feeling really valuable is wonderful, but you got to do something about it. That's what I want you to understand as we give you clarity each and every day, men and women calling into the show, or maybe you're sending your question in via the chat window there, or you're emailing the show. Is that once you get that clarity, it's going to feel really good. There's some juice that comes with that, but I want you to understand there's a duty for you to be you. Why? Simply put, this is not motivational gibberish designed to make you feel good. This is for you to understand that somebody out there needs you to be you. So let's get about the business of helping you be you. Now you can submit your questions right there in the chat window. We're going to get to those in a little bit. Right here on the old computer, watching those come in, and we'll have some interaction there. Also, 844-747-2577. That is the phone number. 844-747-2577 is the number. But first, I love to give you some relevant stories or data from the news to encourage you on your journey. And I'm a big football fan. Make no bones about it. Love football. We're not going to turn this into a football show, but I really love football. And in general, I love sports because I think sports are a wonderful life lesson for teaching us about life. It's a laboratory, if you will. So great story here. Business Insider, great little article, just pulling from this. Scott Davis wrote this. I want to give him credit. Mike McCarthy is the new Dallas Cowboys head football coach, okay? And if you're not a football fan, this is relevant because he was the longtime coach, 13 years with the Green Bay Packers, and was fired last season. And he had a winning record, listen to this, over 13 years, 125 wins, 77 losses, 2 ties. That's really good in the NFL. Just the fact that he was there for 13 years is a big deal. But after he was fired, he had a sour taste in his mouth, and he knew that he was going to take at least a season off. So he did not go right back into coaching, took a season off, and stayed in Green Bay, Wisconsin with his family. I love that. He didn't flee. I really, really love the symbolic nature of that. And a lot of people were surprised that he would stay in Green Bay, Wisconsin after having been fired. New coach comes in. No, he stayed. But it's what he did that I really love and we can learn from. He went out to his refurbished barn, and he invited a bunch of other coaches in that he knew, one a previous head coach, and they would study every offensive snap of the top 10 offenses during the season. So they looked back, and they looked at the season that they had just come through, and they looked at the top 10 offenses, and they basically dissected play calls, formations, watching the offensive players, what they did. He also decided to design a football staff for the future, knowing that he would, in fact, get back to coaching. So he said, this is how I'm going to do it. And came up with a 14-person technology team, including 6 people on the video unit, and then an 8-person analytics team. He spent a day at the Pro Football Focus offices in Cincinnati, Ohio, learning more about data and how to actually incorporate that data and the analytics into his next job. I love this. So I jotted down here at the bottom of the article some great takeaways for you folks. In the midst of failure or in the moments after failure, how do you handle failure? Because when you're fired, okay, it's very easy to get so introspective that you just kind of mumble around and you're just kind of the human Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, and you're just kind of sad and oh, why me? And you're just kind of a victim. As opposed to what Mike McCarthy did. So number one, he did not disengage. He didn't say, I'm done with football forever. I hate the game. I'm taking 3 or 4 years off. I don't know if I'm ever coming back. He said, no, I'm coming back. I love the game of football. He didn't disengage. But there were 2 questions that I believe that he asked himself. 2. And I wrote them down because I think these two questions will help you get the proper perspective when dealing with a failure. Here they are. What could I do differently? And what could I do better? What could I do differently? And what could I do better? So what could I do differently is a question. Okay, these are things I probably shouldn't do, and so I'm going to do it totally differently. These are things that I need to continue to do, but I need to do them much better. And that's really the two questions that McCarthy went through. So final challenge on this. Don't get bitter. Get better. Don't get bitter. Get better. Move on. Your failure does not define you. Let it refine you. All right. Good perspective there. Love that. Again, the article from Business Insider, Scott Davis, really good stuff. And by the way, if you're not a sports fan, find an actor, an actress, a business person, businesswoman, whatever it is. And somebody who has failed and somebody who inspires you. And look to their life. That's why I like these real life examples. 844-747-2577 is the number for you to jump in on the conversation. 844-747-2577. Again, we're going to get a few calls here, and then we'll go to the chat room there. So if you got some questions, even as I am talking with the callers, you can fire it in there. Now, fair warning, it's got to be very to the point so I can read the question and give you some insight. If not, pick up the phone. I'm sitting right here. You've got access to me, and we can have the back and forth if you've got a complex situation. 844-747-2577. We started off with Richard, who's on the line in Charlotte, North Carolina. Richard, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, Ken. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. How can I help today, Richard?
Yeah, I just had a question about how to find my calling in life.
Okay. What do you think that you know so far? Are you completely blank when the idea of what is my calling enters into your mind, or do you have some ideas and you're just not sure how to drill down deeper? Tell me where you really are in this moment.
Well, I know what my interests are. I know what I like to learn about, and that's pretty much it.
Great. Let's start there. And I would call that what you love to do most. Okay. So we're using this as a general description. This is under passion. So every human being has talent. Every human being has passion. And we want to see how we can marry the two together. Talent alone is not enough. Passion alone is not enough to say, hey, this is my calling. So let's look at these things that you just said. Ken, I know what I'm interested in, what I love to learn, what I love to do. Give me that list. Top of the list, by the way.
Well, I love to read on different subjects and topics.
Okay, give me the topics and subjects that you most love to dive into.
Personal finance, personal development, religion, and biographies. That's what I read mostly.
Okay, good. All right, now let's switch gears for a moment, and let's talk for a moment about what you do best. Now, Richard, I want to know what I want you to just think for a moment. I'm giving you multiple questions here to get your brain unlocked, okay? So what people have always complimented you on, tasks, functions, subject matters, things like this that always have come easy for you. You've never struggled with. It's just very effortless. Things that you just know you do better than all the things you do well. I want to know the top things you do really, really well. Tell me that list. Come on, Richard. Come on.
I like to read.
Well, no. Listen, stop. You just told me that. You already told me what you like to do. That's on the what I love to do most. That's passion. Richard, I think you're a guy who struggles with confidence. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Yeah. So you're talking to a friend right now. Okay? You don't have anything to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be embarrassed about. I want you to tell me what you know to be true, whether you feel comfortable saying it or not. You called me today, and I can't help you if you won't be honest with yourself despite what your feelings are telling you. Richard, what do you do best? What are the things, if I interviewed everybody that knows you, they'd say, Richard does this very well. He's always been good at this. What would they say?
Communicating.
Okay, great. How? How do you communicate well? Is that the written word, spoken word, large groups, small groups, instruction? Tell me. Give me something.
I'd say all of the above.
Okay, great. Tell me what else you do very well.
Probably writing. I spend a lot of time journaling.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Writing. Okay. Anything else? Give me one other thing that you know you have a skill. Maybe it's a skill within this communication writing side of things. What's a really natural talent or skill that you have? Give me one more.
Learning. I love to learn.
Great. So you learn easily, don't you? If I gave you something that you had to digest, you attack it and you don't struggle to learn, to digest and analyze and do something with it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, Richard, the sweet spot is an area where multiple jobs, career paths exist, and there's room for you to move up. So the sweet spot is defined by using what you do best, communication, writing, learning, that's your list, Richard, to do what you love to do most. Well, maybe that's in finance, in development, in religion. So how would you use those talents tomorrow, Richard, if I guaranteed you a job that you would be successful in and you would absolutely never fail and you'd be very fulfilled? What would you do with those skills tomorrow?
Probably be an attorney or something.
Yeah, why? Who would you most want to help? What problems would you want to solve with those skill sets and the work of being an attorney? What would you be solving? What would you be fired up to do with that law degree?
Probably helping disadvantaged people with their problems. Probably, I don't know, maybe like personal injury, I'm thinking.
Okay. And why? Why would that be something that you choose? What would that make you feel like at the end of the day, knowing that you helped somebody in that capacity?
Well, because it was done for me a
Oh,
long time ago.
okay. Now, do you see the exercise that we just did? You started the phone call saying, Ken, I need help figuring out what my calling is. I think being a lawyer and helping people in that way is just one option. I think it's a solid option. But I think there's multiple other options in the sweet spot. But the exercise we just did is your homework. I want you to continue to see if there's something else in that sweet spot that would allow you, which there are, but what are all the ways you would use those talents, what you do best, to do something that you really, really love, and it means something to you. You already did a good job, Richard. You came up with a really good one. I want you to do a few more because I want you to absolutely get a lot of ideas so that we can now clarify and verify. And so get clear is stage one. That's what we just walked you through. Stage two is get qualified, but you're not there yet because I want you to go talk to some lawyers, personal injury lawyers. I want you to talk to whatever that other profession or two or three that you come up with. Go talk to those people. This is the beginning of the proximity principle, which is stage three, get connected. Get connected early and find out everything you can about those roles, what it takes to get there, what does it look like, what do they love, what do they not love, all that stuff. And now you're going to clarify and your heart's going to verify what it is you want to do. 844-747-2577 is the number. Folks, that's how it happens right there. Hey, that was hard for Richard. And I'm looking at some of you right now. All right? And I really can't see you, but I'm looking at you. And some of you are scared to death. Some of you are dealing with massive doubt like Richard. But if you trust me, if you call me, 844-747-2577, I'm going to take good care of you. You've got the answers. It's my job to get them out of you. Step into the fear. It's really important. Do it right now. Let's go to the phones. Brandon's on the line in Owensboro, Kentucky. Brandon, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hello, Ken. How are you today?
I'm living the dream, Brandon. What's going on?
Good. Great to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
I talked to you earlier this year, and I did your sweet spot exercise, and I, going through that and identifying, first of all, I have the best job in the world, which is being a husband and a father, and that's what's absolutely most important to me. Mm-hmm. So I identified some career paths that I can continue to, have the type of personal life I want to have with with matching up with the career I want to have. And I started reaching out to some of my contacts, and I found that there's a position that I would really like to have allow me to fulfill some of my career goals, and allow me to have a lot of the personal time that I want with raising a family.
Okay.
And the position comes open later this summer.
Okay.
And I've been talking to my contacts, but I wanted to know how I balance that, not wear them out to the point. Patience is not a virtue of mine.
Yes.
I see something I want to go get it.
Yeah. Welcome to the human race. Okay.
Right.
Listen, don't beat yourself up over that. So, tell me what the last conversation was. How long ago was it, and what was the conversation? Give me the very short version.
Well, I talked to a guy that I was familiar with. He was in the same industry. We don't know each other all that well personally, other than being in the same business.
Okay.
And he is the one that informed me of this. So I'm actually going to have lunch with him this Friday. He's not one of the. He's in a position that I would be the same in the same type of position that I would be. He's not necessarily the decision maker.
And why are you meeting with him? Just for more insight, or does he have a connection to this company where this position is opening?
Well, he actually took my resume and gave my resume to his boss, which would be who I would be working for.
Okay, so he would be a co-worker. This job you just told us all about that's opening this summer, this guy is already on board there, and he took your resume in.
Yes.
Yeah,
has been for 20, 30 years. He's been a long tenure employee. So,
well, I don't understand. You asked me, how do I not wear people out? It sounds like you're literally walking through my proximity principle perfectly. This guy's already recommended you, dropped your resume off, and he's willing to do lunch with you, and you're going to get more insight. It's like you're doing a college research paper, on what it takes to win there. This guy's in a similar role. He's in the company. So I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, because you sounds to me like you're doing everything the right way right now.
Well, it's early on in the process. I know the position isn't open until later this summer.
Right.
I want to give in my eyes, there's nobody in our area, in the area that I'm in, that would be going for this position that's more qualified. So I want to make from that I get myself in there.
Okay.
And put my best foot forward.
Okay, so here's what you do.
Along with that, gathering information as I'm, from the people that I'm having lunch with him. I want to gather information from him to see what they're looking for.
Yes.
And but I don't, this is January. I want to keep in contact with them,
right.
But I don't want them to. I don't want them to view me as a pest, so to speak, or something like
listen,
that.
They're not going to. No. Stop. You're overthinking this. Here's what you do. You're going to have lunch with this guy, and you're going to get all the information you need to get. And then the question I want you to ask is, who are some other people, whether it be at the company or just in the industry, that you think I should connect with that will help me get even more prepared for this job? And then just say that, and just let him kind of direct your paths on who else he thinks you need to contact. See if he'll make the connection. You do that, and then after you've met with him, do a nice handwritten note to the guy who's making the decision. Okay, and just say, hey, I've been meeting with this person, and this person. I am really excited about it. When the appropriate time happens to begin the conversation, I want you to know that I'm super excited. Let me know. You know what I mean? And that's not bugging them. That's showing some serious forethought and some serious preparation. If you're emailing the guy every 2 or 3 days, that's obnoxious. But I think that you are attempting to meet some other people after this guy you're going to meet with, and then I would also have him find out for you when they're going to start the interview process. He's your inside man. He can find out the answer, and it's not obnoxious for him to be asking. He, after all, is the one who recommended you. So I love that. And I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine if you just go that route. And again, the handwritten note is such a game changer in this situation and in most. If you want to reach out and have a touch point and not feel like you're pestering somebody, here's why. You could send an email going, hey, I've done this, this, and this, and I really want the job, hoping to get a shot as soon as you guys begin the process. You could say that in an email, and it's fine. But if you wrote that in a handwritten note, there's not this pressure for them to reply to you. So it's automatically doesn't put any pressure on them, and it's also a nice touch. Hey, whatever happens, thankful for your consideration. That's just classy, and leave it alone. 844-747-2577. Thanks for the call, Brandon. You got this. Hey, we're going to get to more of your calls a little bit later in the program, but I told you that you can dive right in here on the chat window next to the video there as you're watching here on YouTube and submit your questions. So let's go to some of those. Jonna writes in, hey, Ken, found you on YouTube and love the show. Thank you, Jonna. What is the proximity principle? I keep seeing that in the comments. Okay, so the proximity principle actually says this. In order to do what you want to do, you've got to be around people that are doing it and in places where it is happening. So essentially, Jonna, you can fill in the blank there. Whatever the career is, whatever the job is, in order to do blank, I've got to be around people that are doing it. That means that they're successful and they're winning in that area. So it may be the exact same position or similar industry, whatever it is, but you get the idea. And then in places where that is happening. And so the idea here is that as I'm looking to break in, Jonna, and this is for everybody, if I'm looking to break into a field, here's what I know, that the right people plus the right places equals opportunity. How? Well, let's say that I'm interested in being a professor of some sort, and I can meet professors, I can meet the administrators maybe that are hiring those professors, but I also need to go sit in on some classes, and I can sit there and I can watch this. And as I am observing, I am learning, and it's making me better. And or I'm going to certain trade shows where all these professionals are, or I'm going to conferences, and I'm rubbing shoulders with other men and women that are in the business field that are winning. This is the idea: people plus places. And so, Jonna, we wrote a #1 best-selling book entitled The Proximity Principle. 5 specific people, 5 specific places that I outline, tell you who they are, where they are, and how you engage with them so that you get opportunity. So the proximity principle is demystifying the climb up the mountain rather, that you want to be at, meaning the dream job, meaningful work that matters to you. Don't overthink it. It's not impossible. If I'm around the right people, they're going to tell me what I need to know. They're going to connect me to other people that are the right people, and they're going to point me to the right places. These are job opportunities many times, places to learn, places to practice, all these types of things. So anyway, if you're new to the Ken Coleman Show, the book is only $20. We've got some bundled deals where you can get all 3 formats for an incredible low price at kencoleman.com. Go get it. I promise you, it's absolutely worth it, and it works. 844-747-2577, the number if you're just joining us. We're in the chat room here answering your questions. Eric writes in, hey, Ken, my wife wants to be a stay-at-home mom. That means I would have to leave the job I absolutely love because it doesn't pay enough. What should I do? Oh, my goodness. This one's got several angles to it. Here's the deal. I can't answer this to the fullest in a chat room like this because we just can't go back and forth. I'm not going to fire off on the keyboard here back and forth. But my advice would be this. You've got to sit down with your wife, and we've got to come up with a plan to where both of you are happy. And so she's going, hey, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to be in the workforce. So that is going to obviously change your income. And so if you go to one income, the job you love right now is just not enough. But that doesn't mean you have to leave that job. Maybe you're working a second job. I don't know. In the meantime, until you can move up within that career, I'd be interested to know what that job is, what the career ladder looks like. How can you make more money? What are we going to do there? But in the interim, we're going to have to make some changes to our lifestyle. So this is also a sit down, and it's a budget question, right? We're going, okay, where can we change our living expenses so that I can do the work I love and you can come home? The other thing you have to sit down and go, okay, I know you'd love to do it tomorrow, but that may not be realistic. Give me some time. Let me work towards this goal so that we can get you home. What does that look like? So the budget and the calendar and both of your hearts have all got to come into alignment. So I'm more telling you what needs to happen so that this goes well. Connor writes in, I've been in my new job for a year. When is the best time to start asking for a raise if my work is exceeding expectations? Okay, Connor, I don't want you to ask for a raise. I don't like anybody asking for a raise. Hey, can I get a raise? I think I deserve a raise. That automatically puts your leader on the defensive. It just does. It puts your leader on the defensive. Here's what I want you to do, Connor. I want you to ask for an annual review. If your company already does one, then you wait for the annual review, and that's when you bring this up. And you say something to the effect of, hey, listen, I would love to know how I'm doing. What can I do better? What areas could I grow beyond just doing things better? What areas do you think I can grow? So what are some additional learning or training that I could go get that would give me an opportunity to increase my responsibility and ultimately increase my pay? So essentially, I'm looking for a measured growth plan that would allow me to get more responsibility and as a result, make more money. Now that conversation to your leader, that's a game changer, because you're not saying, give me more money. You're saying, I want to grow. With that growth, more responsibility, and of course, greater compensation. But it's tied to you doing something that they have mapped out together with you, ideally, and now we're measuring that. That is something that a leader is going to be much more willing to not be defensive about. If you just walk in and go, listen, I've been here a year, I feel like I'm exceeding expectations. When do I get a raise? Whoa! That automatically creates a different dynamic, and you don't necessarily want to go that way. All right, we're going to get back to the phones momentarily, but I've got to read an email. Joe printed this out. Joe, the producer. This is really great. Stephanie writes in, I'm writing to let you know I had major doubts that your resume template would work. Now, we have a resume guide, a resume template at kencoleman.com. You can go get that. I'll tell you more about that momentarily. So this is what she's talking about. And by the way, we have structured it. It's so different than most resumes. So this is what she's talking about. She says, I had some major doubts your resume template would work. I'm a physician assistant. Been looking for something on the weekends to help speed up getting out of debt. Plus, I'm going to retire from my primary job in a couple of years, and I wanted to transition into another PA position, something more part-time. I had been applying for over a year, inconsistently, and really not getting any response. Then I took your template and redid my resume. I was very doubtful. Yes, I know. You've already mentioned that once. She was doubtful for sure. I don't know, Ken. I'm going to give it a shot. I was very doubtful when I first started typing it, but intrigued nonetheless. I trimmed down my resume to fit your template. I put the references at the top. I listed one of my interest in the job being that it would allow me to do meaningful work, which I began to realize I was missing in my current work. Guess who called me last week? Oh, I know. Guess what the interview mentioned during the interview? My desire for meaningful work, a direct quote from my resume. After the interview and a ride-along, because they bring urgent care to the home, I was offered the job. It's the coolest job I have ever had. Way to go, Stephanie. That's really exciting. Now, I want to teach on this for a moment because so many of you are submitting resumes like crazy. Oh, I'm on this site, I'm on this site, I'm this site. Hey, Ken, I submitted 13 resumes yesterday, and would you believe I got no response? Yep, I would believe that. It's why we redid the traditional resume. Now, if you go online and search resume templates, there's 8 billion of them. But they all largely are following the same format. And essentially, your references are usually the last thing. We flipped it on its head and said, every job is about who you know. Every job. And so we said, you know what? Let's lead with who we know. So the top section of the Ken Coleman Show resume says, who I know. And it says it in bold letters. Why? Because a resume is worthless without a relationship. If you're just submitting your resume and you have no connection to anybody in that office, you are playing the job lottery. You are essentially saying, well, I'm anonymous, but I hope they read my resume. We know from research that human resource managers and hiring managers spend 6 to 60 seconds scanning your resume. So if they scan it, it better stand out. And that's why we do the resume the way we do it. But even my resume template will not work if you don't have a relationship in the building. It doesn't have to be a direct connection. Could be indirect, but you've got a connection point that works in the building who can vouch for you because of a solid relationship they have. Don't overthink this. It's not that difficult. But here's the deal. It's absolutely free. Go right now to kencoleman.com. You scroll down. It's at the bottom of the site there on the main page. It's absolutely free, and you got to get it. It's entitled How to Write the Perfect Resume. I gave you the guts, but we teach through this thing. We actually give you a template you can fill out and stand out. But I'm telling you, you better start doing the hard work. Even if you live out of state or and you're going somewhere else, you go, Ken, I don't know anybody over there. Well, you better get on Facebook and LinkedIn. You better start finding connections. Because I believe everybody is somewhere between 5 and 6 connections from anybody. So you got to work it. Nothing magical about it. 844-747-2577. 844-747-2577 is the number. Back to the phones we go. It's the heart of the show. I'm here for you to talk directly to you. Lindsey's on the line in Redlands, California. Lindsey, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi there. How are you?
I am living the dream, Lindsey. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
A little bit about myself. I'm 28 years old. I'm currently working at a nonprofit in their development department, and I like it okay. But what I really like is doing events. I started my own wedding planning business about 6 years ago and was doing well. But when my husband and I decided to grow my family, we scaled way, way back.
Hey, Lindsey,
Mm-hmm.
real quick, you're doing a great job. If you can just kind of pull that phone closer to your mouth, you're getting real muffled on us.
Sorry, is this better?
That is so much better. Okay, so you had a wedding planning business and something happened to the husband, so pick me up there.
Sorry. Wedding planning business about 6 years ago, and we were doing well. But when we decided to grow our family, I scaled way back.
Okay.
So my question is, with my experience, I have 7 years in development and event planning and a degree in communications. I'm curious what would be a good position to apply for that wouldn't be so far-fetched, that it wouldn't be so outlandish for me to apply for.
It's such a funny question because I think you're really clear on what you'd love to do. So I'll answer that in a moment, but I'm going to ask you a question instead of answer your question because it's just a weird way of saying it. What would not be so outlandish and so crazy? As opposed to, what is it that you would want to do? If I give it to you tomorrow on your terms, what do you want to do? You already told us. Just say it.
I'd love to plan events, and I'd love to do it full time, but
Yay!
I would love to do it for a company, for somebody else, and not for myself.
Right. So my point is, who's planning events in your zip code or your nearby area? Like, let's just have fun for a second. Just a silly visual, okay? But are you old enough to even remember old school maps that were like physical maps? You'd spread them out on a table?
Yep.
Okay. So let's just picture your area, okay? And let's just say you go, Ken, I'm not willing to drive more than 30 minutes from my home every day. Great. So we would draw a circle around your house and we go 30 minutes either way. And we're just going, who's doing event planning, whether it be bar mitzvahs and birthdays and anniversaries and weddings and yada, yada, yada? Or is there an actual convention center that has a lot of live events that come through there and they have a staff? And so they need people like you to work with the events to help pull these events off. You know, you're just making a list of who's in the event game in my area. And now that's our start. And we go, we know you've got experience to be able to bring a lot to the table. Yes or no, Lindsey?
Yes.
All right. So that's where we start. And then we go, okay, let's use the proximity principle here. Who do I know that knows somebody that works there or is running one of those event companies? And would they be willing to make a direct connection and say, let me tell you about my friend Lindsey. She's a rock star. She had her own wedding planning business, but went home to start a family. By the way, everybody respects that. That's totally normal. Nothing weird about that. It's not like you're a loser flunky. And she just wants to get back in. But because she's a mama now, she doesn't want to run her own business. She wants to work for somebody else. She has done it all. I think she'd be fantastic. What's so difficult about that in your mind?
I think to me, with the event planning business, it's always just one person. So going in to apply would be almost like taking that person's job. So I guess I'm just curious if there was, I don't know, maybe another type of industry that I could use my talents for those things, organized and personable, that I could apply somewhere else and make more money than what I'm making now.
What are you making now?
54 a year.
Doing what?
I'm a development director for a nonprofit, but
that's right. Yeah.
I don't like the development
Yeah.
side of it.
Yeah, here's the deal. I'm going to push back on you a little bit. I wish you would just do what I told you to do and just do that exercise and actually make a list of event planning companies, number one. Also, is there a convention center or some type of arena that's close by that does regional events?
Probably within about 30 miles.
Yeah. Okay. Can you just make the list, first of all? And I don't know where you're getting this idea, and I'm on your side, Lindsey, but I don't know where you're getting this idea that you're taking somebody's job. We're only talking about approaching people who are hiring. So you're not taking anybody's job. So I don't quite get the reasoning there. But let me also give you one other idea. Who's to say that you couldn't be a valuable asset in corporate America in companies large enough that they do their own events internally? Do you understand what I'm saying? So like they do a lot of HR events. And so you could end up working in an HR department where you are putting events together, putting training together. I mean, you're just a logistical wizard. Am I getting that right?
Yes, basically.
Yeah. So what are all the ways, where are all the companies where you could go and take your logistical, organizational, people skills, figure out what the task list is, get the task list done, and do it in a way that everybody's happy and everybody's fulfilled? Does that sound like a good day to you?
It would to me, but
Yeah.
I guess I just never thought about anything outside of, I guess,
you know why?
a cool event.
You know why? Because you're doing what a lot of us do. It's the human element. You're going, this is all I've ever done. So it's how scary is it to step outside of that? And you stopped thinking about what you actually do during the day. Forget about the title. Forget about the industry. What do you do all day, every day, Lindsey, that makes you love live events? And it's really about coordinating, planning, executing, right? I could go on and on and on. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the things that you love to do are actually the things you're really good at. So in your sweet spot, Lindsey, are multiple jobs and even careers or sectors. Make sense now?
It does.
So forget just the assignment I gave you. Get beyond that and go, let's go look at all the jobs that are available right now in my area that are heavy on logistics and details and organization and execution, because all those are in your sweet spot. Am I right?
Yes.
All right, Lindsey, you know what time it is, don't you?
You going to tell me?
It's time to go. Stop thinking and start looking and start applying and start using the proximity principle. Hang on the line. I'm going to have Madison give you a copy of my best-selling book because this is going to encourage you and equip you at the same time as you begin to reach out. And you are so wildly valuable in the American economy. You give me somebody like you, Lindsey, who's personable, great with details, loves execution, got a great spirit about it. Come on, Lindsey, the world at work revolves around people like you. I'm an idea guy. I got the big vision, but I'm awful with execution. So you're really valuable. Well, it's hard to believe. Our time is almost up. But before I let you go, I want you to know that you matter and you do have what it takes. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, this is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.